So Santa Rosa is like just south of Guatemala City. It's hotter, so the elevation starts going down. You go from the city and you start going towards the coast as you go south. So the more and more south you go, the hotter it gets. And I was in a place called Nueva Santa Rosa, which wasn't too bad because it was still kind of up in the mountains-ish. It was in a valley, surrounded by mountains with one volcano, like the main viewpoint, I guess you could say, right in front, directly south of the town. And it's way different, totally different world, honestly. It really is. Like, the level of education of the people goes down drastically as you go outside the capital. There's no colleges in the capital, or there are. There's schools, but there's less kids going to them, I guess you could say. So that is a tricky thing. The people are much more poor. Especially in Nueva Santa Rosa, what you see a lot is houses made of adobe. So they'll make, instead of cinder block houses, you'll have houses made out of blocks of mud, basically. Because it's really cheap. It was like 1 quetzal for a block of mud versus like 7 quetzales for a cinder block. And those houses had electricity a lot of the time. And so they would just like bring a wire in and attach that to a light bulb, usually. The electrical setups could be pretty sketchy sometimes. We never volunteered to help set those up because it's dangerous. But outside, the people were usually more kind because they have less. They're humbled by their circumstances. So they're very open. They were like kind of surprised to see us sometimes because, well, mainly me, because I'm white, blonde hair, blue eyes. They've never seen that sometimes before, especially as you go out to some of the villages where missionaries have hardly ever gone, and they're just like, what? And they're staring at you as you walk by. You're just like, hi. And they're like, hi, who are you? So that was always really fun. Out there, outside of the capital, typically the church is not as strong, at least in the South Mission. More branches. So the branch I was in had, on average, like 45 people that would go to church, versus the average in the capital was closer to 150, 170 in church every Sunday. And just members that haven't been members as long, so they know less about the doctrine of the church, they know less about how things should be done. And there's just more opportunities to teach members in that way as well. You take buses that are really fast. They are school buses that they'll like trick out. They put Caterpillar engines in them so that they can go up the big hills and mountains of Guatemala and down them and stuff. And they're really fast, even though they're totally full of people and filled with things on top of them on the outside, like produce that they will buy in the capital and then bring back to town, or bring to the capital to sell. But that was always really fun to go in the buses. It's very pretty, a lot more wildlife. You don't really see any animals in the city because they're all dead, because they will eat them. Like if they find an armadillo or a large rodent called tacuacin, I don't know how to say that in English. If they would find that, they're going to kill it and they're going to eat it because that's dinner. So in the city where there's more people, there's like no animals at all. Whereas outside of the city, you'll find there's these really cool lizards that were like this big that weren't iguanas. They were these lizards that would just run really fast. They almost look like those bearded things that can run on water, but they weren't. So you'd see snakes more often, really big insects. The insects there are really big, like a grasshopper, ones that flew onto my shirt that was this big. Without joking, it's huge. It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. It definitely has a different feel. It's more quiet. You could sometimes be walking to a house, stop, and you wouldn't hear tons of cars. You wouldn't hear loud music. It just calm, peace. In that sense, it's really easy to feel the spirit outside of the capital. Not that it's not on the inside, like if you're looking for it, but it's easy to feel the spirit, for me at least, in nature. Like Nephi, going to the mountains to pray, or like Moses. I kind of felt that way, being in Santa Rosa a lot. The zone, all the missionaries are spread out much more there. So in the capital, to do splits, for example, with your district leaders or with your zone leaders, you wouldn't have to travel a whole lot. Whereas outside of the capital, in Santa Rosa, we would have to take a bus that took about 40 minutes to get to where our zone leaders lived. And to get to our district leaders, we'd have to go another 20 minutes, so it was like an hour. And that usually was extended due to traffic or like all the stops that the buses make, picking up people, dropping off people, all kinds of stuff. So I would say that was something unique about being outside in Santa Rosa.